Surviving and going on high kill streaks in this game, especially whenever you're new, is a very hard thing to accomplish, especially if you don't know what you're doing. So today I'm going to teach you some tips how to survive and go on those high kill games. Tip number one is just learning to counter. I mean, the most common attack that people use in public matches is the slash, and just learning that on its own will massively increase your chances of winning any 1v1 or 1vx fight. If you don't know how to counter, you're just going to get destroyed in most fights against anybody that does. If you know how to counter overheads and stabs as well, you can win just about any fight just through attrition. After you know that, it just becomes a game of how to kill somebody faster. To learn counters, if you're on PC, it's really simple. You can go on what's called the dual servers. There you can really just hone in on learning counters and really get better. At first you're going to get completely destroyed, but after a while, maybe a few days it took me, I was able to counter all slashes, most overheads and stabs, so I'm sure you can do it if you just spend the time. It's going to be brutal at first though, because you're just going to get destroyed by people that are, just really good at the game, but it's definitely the fastest way you're going to improve. If you're on console, just go into regular match and really just focus on countering. Don't worry about doing the objective or anything like that while you're practicing, and you'll get better in no time. Tip number two is movement. Use your dashes, your crouches, your micro movements being strafing left and right during a fight. Doing that, you'd be surprised at how much it makes people miss their attacks and gives you a free hit on the punish after they miss. Dodging it in the fight, especially if you have range advantage, is insanely powerful because you can just outrange people that are faster than you and just get free hits over and over and over. But don't use dashes too much if you're not able to counter the person you're fighting, because doing that will make you run out of stamina and will make you drop your weapon before the fight's over. You end up dying. Tip number three is target switching. Whenever you're fighting more than one person, you always want to be target switching. You want to be countering one person or riposting on one person and immediately switching to the other person that's fighting you and point that counter or riposte at them. Most of the time it'll catch people off guard and you'll have a much easier time fighting that 1vx doing that. Be careful target switching whenever you're fighting a very aggressive and fast weapon, because a lot of the time while you're throwing your attack at the second guy, he'll be able to stab you in the back before you're able to riposte or counter the short range guy's attack. Tip number four, watch for the best players in the match that you're fighting against. Players will have like a bunch of cosmetics that really make them stand out in the crowd. While you're fighting them during the match, you just need to take notes of what their normal attacks are. Like, do they kick a lot? Are they very aggressive? Do they counter? Do they feint? All those types of things, and really make sure you're taking notes of that, and that way whenever you're fighting them again, you can take advantage of those weaknesses. Really think of how you could kill those people easier. So like, say they do a lot of overheads, you can be really ready for that and easily counter or dodge and get a free hit whenever they miss. If they're really aggressive, you need to make sure you're not feigning so they don't gamble you and kill you, stuff like that. Also, if it's just a guy that you just cannot defeat, he's just better than you need to avoid them and make sure that you have some teammates to back you up whenever you're in a fight with them. Tip number five, rotate around the map. Watch for enemy spawns. In this game, spawns rotate, so you'll have people spawn on the left side of the map, then the right side of the map, sometimes in the middle, and if you really watch for whenever you're in a team fight, you win that team fight instead of pushing forward with a weakened group of people, and likely you'll get killed because you have weakened team. What you need to do is switch to the other side of the map where your team just spawned and you're fighting their weakened group of people. A lot of times that's how it will work out. And if you just switch back and forth between those objectives, you'll get lots of free kills. You'll be able to go up behind people because they're already in fights. It's a much better way to play if you're looking to get on those high kill streak games. Tip number six, whenever you're fighting a short range player, always always use range. Bait them into swings, especially if they're aggressive. Bait them into a swing and start your own attack to catch them on their miss. That's one of the best ways to kill somebody with short range weapons. Tip number 7, don't get greedy. If you're fighting a group of people and you're outnumbered, you're getting destroyed by them, they're better than you, look for a way out. Don't just stay in there and try and get out of that situation, or try and back up, play defensively, back up to your team, stuff like that. Don't just rely on luck to help you survive. Tip number 8, use your flanks. All over every map, on almost every objective, there's lots and lots of flanks. You need to get creative with how you approach situations like that. Don't just stack on your teammates in a team fight. Look for a way around. You have to drop on your enemies. You'll get tons of free hits, help your teammates out. It'll really help you just survive in general. Tip number 9, use your kicks. If you're fighting somebody that does not counter and he just riposts, it's really easy to get kicks off on that person and free hits. Tip number 10, if you're fighting against somebody with counters, use feints. Feints give a free hit most of the time if you're fighting against somebody that uses lots of counters. There's all kinds of feints that you can do in this game, and if one's not working, switch to another. Feint slashes into overheads, overheads into slashes, slashes into stabs, etc, etc. Depending on what weapon you're using, each one's going to be more powerful than the other, but like if you're using axes, most of the time you shouldn't feint into a stab. It don't do much damage, but if you're feinting into overheads, since overheads do a massive amount of damage on axes, you can really do a massive amount of damage, and it catches those people that counter off guard most of the time. So that's it for this one. If you follow these tips, you survive for so much longer and get so many more kills. This game is really not that hard once you get the hang of the mechanics.